All right, we're going to talk about cutting boards right now. Cutting boards are extremely important. Having in our kitchen is a very important tool. There are a number of reasons why we want to have cutting boards. I think the biggest reasons are because we don't want to cut into our countertops. We don't want to cut into our nice furniture, kitchen furniture, or anything of that nature. So it's important for us to have cutting boards, but also it also helps us to make sure that there's no cross-contamination going on with the products that we are going to work with. So right here what you'll see is I have a nice commercial grade cutting board. Now this cutting board is pretty much made of plastic, hard plastic. And that's a very good cutting board to use because it helps to prevent bacteria from growing on it and getting into the pores and everything. And we can clean it easy and we can sanitize it easy so that it's ready for our next use. Cutting boards are made of different material, of course, but the hard plastic is the best material to use simply because it prevents a lot of bacteria from building up on it, finding its way into the pores or shallow crevices that are created sometimes over time. And so the hard plastic prevents that, so we can easily get the debris off of our cutting board. That's what washing means, getting the debris off of your cutting board. Then you need to sanitize it, which is to kill the bacteria that develops while you're working with product. Bacteria exists. The problem is how much bacteria exists. So when we sanitize our cutting boards after each use, what we're doing is we're eliminating the bacteria buildup. And when we have the right material that we're using for a cutting board, we can prevent the bacteria from getting into the crevices or pores of the material and living there and staying moist, and then they start to grow. Now, in a commercial kitchen, in the culinary world, wherever it may be, there are different colors of cutting boards. Now at home for yourself, the color doesn't really matter. Something like this is perfect. But in restaurants, hotels, banquet facilities, hospitals, what they like to do is color coordinate your cutting board. So for instance, a green cutting board is for produce. A red cutting board is for raw beef, okay? Then you have raw beef or pork. Then you have a yellow cutting board, which is for raw chicken. Then you would have a white cutting board that is typically for dairy. Then you have a light blue cutting board that is for raw fish. And the last cutting board is a brown cutting board, which you would use for cooked meats. So the reason why we would have it color coordinated is to ensure that any worker that's working with product, if it's produce, beef, chicken, cooked meats, they are using the cutting board solely for that purpose to avoid the opportunity for cross-contamination. That is the biggest reason for why we have foodborne illnesses, is because of the effect of cross-contamination. Me using the same cutting board to not only cut my raw chicken, but then my lettuce that I'm going to put out to a salad bar, then my cooked roast beef that I'm slicing that I'm going to use for my salad bar. And so what happens is the cross-contamination exists by you having raw chicken on a cutting board, which could have some bacteria on it or could be a problem, a material product, and then when you're done using it, you don't wash it, you don't sanitize it, then you put some raw lettuce on there. It's just some ready-to-eat lettuce, and you cut your lettuce on there. Now what happens is that lettuce has touched the raw chicken where it was at on the cutting board, and if it was contaminated, the contamination now leaves the cutting board, gets onto the lettuce that you cut, and it goes out to the buffet line where it now is it's going to affect the consumer. So it's important for us to make sure that we're mindful of that. But the color coordination of cutting boards is for that reason, is to prevent people from cross-contaminating food product. So back to the cutting board, again, another big thing that people sometimes don't, the drawback about having hard plastic is it does dull your knife faster. There are cutting boards that are made of wood and cork and softer wood that people tend to use because it doesn't dull your knife as fast. So when you see me cutting and I'm cutting on this hard plastic, what eventually happens is my knife gets dull. So then I have to get my steel out, sharpen it, bring it back to an edge, and go back to cutting, trimming, slicing, chopping, dicing, whatever I'm doing. And then I have to do that more repeatedly because the hard plastic will dull the knife. However, it's the most sanitary way of maintaining cleanliness in your kitchen when you're using a hard plastic cutting board. So cutting boards, again, are very important. It's it's a tool you need to have. It's a piece of equipment you need to have in your kitchen. I'll show you another one. I have a smaller one for a household. This is a little bit smaller. You can use this as well, again, made of hard plastic, and it's suitable for in your kitchen at home. This is more of a commercial size, but I have it at my house. I will use something this big because I like a lot of space to cut my food. I like to make sure my knife, if you notice, I want to make sure my knife is on the cutting board as I'm cutting. Whereas with this one, it kind of overlaps. Now, you see how my cutting board moves? I want to show you a little trick. Something that we all do in the industry. You see underneath, I have some wet paper towel. The reason why I do that, it's just simply take a few paper towels, damp them a little bit, put them on the table. It prevents the movement so that your cutting board doesn't end up moving. Like this one, it's moving. If it's just on here, it's gonna move, and you don't want that to happen. So what you do is, you make sure that you damp a little paper towel, and then you put the paper towel down, you place your cutting board down firmly, and then you're able to use your knife, and as aggressive as you are, your cutting board is still gonna stay right there to prevent your knife slipping and cutting yourself. So, those are just some quick tips about cutting boards. You should have one in your house. This just costed $10 at Target. Very simple, but it's a great tool to have so that you're cutting effectively and you're doing it safely. So have a great day, and we'll see you again on our next time.